Classmates, in this lecture, we will continue to study actual model. We have known that international trade tends to equalize product prices among trading partners. Can the same be said for factor prices? So today we will study factor price equalization theorem. Sometimes we call it Herschel-Olin-Samuelson theorem or HOS theorem. We will focus on the two issues. First, factor price equalization in theory. Second, factor price equalization in the real world. First, factor price equalization in theory. We continue to assume home has a higher ratio of labor to capital than foreign does. In the absence of trade, labor would earn less in home than in foreign, and the capital would earn more because home is a labor-abundant country and the foreign is capital-abundant. So without trade, there are larger differences in the price of factors among two trading countries. After trade, home's demand for inexpensive foreign food results in an increased foreign demand for its abundant sources, capital. The price of capital thus rises in foreign. As home produces less food, its demand for capital decreases, and the price of capital falls. The effect of trade is to equalize the price of capital in the two trading countries. Similarly, the foreign's demand for cheap home's clothes leads to an increased demand for labor in home. Its abundant sources, the price of labor rises in home. With the foreign producing fewer clothes, its demand for labor decreases, and the price of labor falls. With trade, the price of labor tends to equalize in the two trading partners. There is clearly a tendency towards equalization of factor prices. We can understand it by another method. The goods that home sells require more labor to produce than the good it receives in return. That is, more labor is embodied in home's export than in its imports. Thus, home exports its labor embodied in its labor-intensive exports. Conversely, foreign exports embody more capital than its imports. Foreign is indirectly exporting its capital. When viewed this way, it is not surprising that trading leads to equalization of two countries' factor prices. Indian capital engineers provide an example of factor price equalization. In the first decade of 2000s, lots of US software services were outsourced into India, where computer engineers earned about 25% of what their counterparts earned in the United States. The result was increasing competition for the most Indian computer engineers and the narrowing US-India gap in their wages. By 2007, India Software and Sales Association estimated wage inflation in its industry at 10 to 15% a year. In the United States, wage inflation in the software sector was less than 3%. For experienced top-level Indian engineers, salaries increased to between 60,000 and 100,000 a year, placing against the salaries earned by computer engineers in the United States. Wage equalization was occurring between India and the United States. Second, fact price equalization in the real world. Although the tendency toward the equalization of resources prices may sound plausible, in the real world, we don't see full factor price equalization. There is an extremely wide range of rates across countries. For example, in 2015, hourly compensation of manufacturing workers in Germany is 7 times high as that in Mexico. Look at table 1. There are several reasons why differences in resources price exist. Firstly, most income inequality across countries results from uneven ownership of human capital. But the fact endowment model assumes that all labor is identical. Labor across countries differs in terms of human capital that includes education, training, skill, and the like. We don't expect a computer engineer in the United States with a PhD and 10 years experience to be paid the same wage as a college graduate taking his or her first job as computer engineer in Thailand. Secondly, the actual model assumes that all countries use the same technology for producing a particular product. A country with superior technology might have both a higher wage rate and a higher rental rate than a country with an inferior technology. Thirdly, the factor endowment theory assumes the trading countries produce both goods. This need not, however, be the case. A country with a very high ratio of labor to capital may produce only clothes, while a country with a high ratio of capital to labor might produce only food. So fact prices need not be equalized between countries with radically different ratio of capital to labor or of skilled to unskilled labor. Finally, the proposition of complete factor price equalization depends on complete convergence of the prices of goods. However, in the real world, prices of goods are not equalized by international trade due to both natural barriers, such as transportation costs, and the barrier to trade, such as tariffs, import quotas, and other restrictions. That's all for this lecture. Thanks for joining. See you next time.